fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
If you need something quick and convenient like my family does, my ultimate high-protein dinner hack is grabbing pre-marinated steak tips and making them extra crispy and charred in the air fryer, while the inside stays juicy and medium rare. I can't say enough about the convenience of Omaha Steaks. Thanks to them, I always have the highest quality proteins on hand. Enjoy exceptional flavor in the convenience of Omaha Steaks during their spring savings event. Omaha Steaks is your weeknight win. And right now, you can get the world's best everyday protein during their spring savings event. Go to omahasteaks.com for an extra $35 off when you use promo code YUM at checkout. That's omahasteaks.com. Terms apply. See site for details. Go to omahasteaks.com to shop their spring savings event and use promo code YUM at checkout for an extra $35 off. Minimum purchase may apply.
What does it mean to be an expert in something that everyone thinks they're already an expert in?
This week, we're talking with Dara Moskowitz Grumdahl, a 6-time James Beard Award-winning food critic and writer, about what it takes to build a 30-year career covering the thing humans literally cannot survive without.
We talk about why food writing gets treated differently, how ICE raids are gutting the Twin Cities restaurant industry, and why there are fewer working restaurant critics in America than there are prima ballerinas.
And somehow, also, we cover bees.
The creative economy is broken, but some people are still making it work. We're here to find out how.
I'm Anna Marie Cox.
And I'm Open Mike Eagle.
And this is Past Due. Dara.
Hello, hello.
All right, we like to start off hot. I know the answer to this one because we're friends, but I'm going to ask anyway. When's the last time you worried about covering your monthly expenses?
Oh, a couple hours ago.
Okay.
I paid a bunch of, I got an expense check. I paid a bunch of bills. I, feel like I'm going to make it to the end of the month. Life is a creative.
That might be the most recent answer we've gotten. Is the last couple of hours. Have we gotten more
Paul
recent than that?
F., man, our very first guest, I believe. Well, maybe he was last couple of days, but pretty sure that we jumped in with folks that were in the same boat as me and Mike, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners.
No, I have some checks on my mailbox right now, and I refuse to go to electronic because I will get in trouble. So I have to control paper checks. That's who still uses paper checks. A woman who is not sure there's money in the account for the things.
Yeah, electronics can get kind of, it can be just as nerve-wracking if you're like hitting refresh like I was yesterday. Like, trying to see if actually a bill had gone through. Mm. So how do you put it together, Dara? Like, what is the math for you for making it through?
All right. Well, I will say, like, the way that I feel good about my life is that I have been keeping a roof over my head with writing since 1995. Mm. So for 30 years, I have kept a roof over my head with the pursuit of nonfiction. I am a Byronic, old-fashioned, like, here's what I want to do with my life is pursue nonfiction. Like, what is true? What is not true? Like, how can I tell the truth, see the truth, be, whatever. Like, so I've been doing that since 1995. I started off in alt weeklies. Then I've been in magazines since 2012. I started in magazines before that, kind of climbing the Condé Nast hierarchy in New York City in the 90s. And so, I'm really proud of that. But a lot of it is just hustle, dreams, and keeping your expenses as low as you can.
Where your situation is right now, is that sort of a consistent place where it's been? Like, has it gotten more tough recently, or has it been like that for quite some time?
Well, both, honestly. So for me personally, uh, I had some. You guys know what a non-compete is? I had this
Uh-huh.
just brutal non-compete that really kept me trapped and kind of trapped for many years. And then I think it was in the fall of 24, the Minnesota Supreme Court. I live in Minnesota. Minnesota Supreme Court said that those are all unconstitutional and they are horrible. So, non-compete in my case was that I couldn't write in my own market for 2 years.
Two
So I would
years.
have to, yeah. And, the company that I used to work for was something called Greenspring, and it owned Minnesota Monthly. And the non-compete, they would go after people in court, like creatives all the time. So they sign you up at a salary, then they sue you if you leave, and whatever you build of your reputation, your brand, your audience, 2 years, you can't access that. So, anyway, fall of 24, I think it was, Minnesota Supreme Court finally said, no more non-competes. It's over. And then, all of a sudden, there's a lot more movement in my world. And so I didn't personally move, but things have gotten better for me because of the non-competes and other people moving around. So things are a little better for me than they were a couple of years ago, but it's always just been piecing things together.
And for people that need to be reminded, you have a specific, I won't say unusual situation for a writer, but a real specific beat. And it encompasses a lot. But to say someone can't write about food is a huge, that's a huge thing to tell someone you can't write about.
Yeah.
It covers a lot of stuff.
Fairly standard. I did a story once for Meredith, which is the magazine company based in Iowa, and the contract that they sent was that it was a story about my Christmas cookie memories, like a very generic essay, not generic, but like a heartfelt essay about my own gosh darn life. And the contract that they sent was that they own the rights to that and all related materials in perpetuity. So it was just like, what is this? Like, you own my memories?
Like they bought the rights to your life real quick.
Yeah. Like for some $800 essay. And so that stuff is not uncommon, finding yourself in this broad area. But it's I started doing this because I desperately wanted to be a writer. I started out in the 90s. I was writing for something called City Pages, which was all weekly. They were paying $15. That's a 1 and a 5 together. So I get $15 for a culture piece. And I would spend, all week writing it. And also I was cocktailing at Chi-Chi's, a little place with a frozen margarita or two. And I was like literally close to starving to death. Like I had, expenses of like $280 a month, and I was making not $280 a month. And this big company called Microsoft came to town. And they were like, we're going to replace the yellow pages, and we have 500 restaurant reviews that we want to produce out of 20 cities. We want 500 restaurant reviews out of Minneapolis, and 500 out of New York City, and 500 out of San Francisco. And if you can see the problem there, Minneapolis and New York and San Francisco did not have equivalent restaurant scenes. So the fancy people who ran that whole thing, like they took the top 50 good restaurants for themselves and they went out to dinner and they wrote those up. And then they suddenly had to deliver 450 more. So they reached out to me and they were like, hey, dummy grunt work girl, like, would you like to drive to the farthest suburbs and go to any random Italian restaurant? Me, literally starving to death, was like, I would get $50 and dinner? Like, sign me up. So I think I did 150 of those. And that was how, and so I was at City Pages writing these $15 culture stories. And then the restaurant critic was like, hey, I'm out of here. This place sucks. And so they were like, oh, you could do that. You do it. You've been going to, you like restaurants, right? You seem to go to restaurants. So I was like, in fact, I'm an expert. And my friends, that's how you get 6 James Beard Awards.
Hey, Mike, do you know that those are a big deal? Those are a big deal.
I can just tell because they're heavy.
They are.
But you told me actually when we were talking before, you're not gonna like you are kind of done with the James Beard. Like,
well, no. You're never done. Here's a book that I wrote, wine book that did really well. It bought me a year of daycare when I had 2 children.
For the audio listeners, what's the title of the book?
That book is called Drink This, Wine Made Simple, and it's Ballantine Random House, and it came out in the very last days of 2009, and it paid for daycare for my kids. I think that that's a thing that we don't talk about enough as a creative. Like, how do you do the things you want to do, like having children? When I had an infant in daycare, it was $17,500 after tax dollars. And when I had a toddler in daycare at the exact same time, it was $12,000 after tax dollars. I was spending almost $30,000 a year after tax to pay for daycare. I was earning $80,000 a year. I'm scarred.
Let's talk about that female tax some more. I know, in the political world, like I've seen my own career suffer. There's just less leeway for women to be able to have how they speak about their opinions, like what kind of presentation they can make in public. The just preponderance of men in the field. Food writing, people might think like some of our most famous food writers that people really admire, like MFK Fisher and like, I don't know, Ina Garten. I mean, those are all women, but do you see like those structural problems? I mean, I know you do, but do you want to talk about that as well?
Sure. I will talk about it forever. It's food writing is one of those things where, when I started in Alt Weekly, there was very much a hierarchy of news people are at the top, like they're the smartest, they're the most important. So you can either be domestic news and be cops, or you can be foreign news and be wars. Like those are tough, and that's important, and that's what you do, Anna. And then there's this hierarchy of less and less important, and then the restaurant critics and the food pages, they are what are traditionally known as the women's pages. You've got you got to stretch that garden zucchini, or you got to figure out Thanksgiving, or this, that, and the other thing. When I got into food writing, I was like, well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use the techniques of nonfiction, heroes of mine, list them forever. But I'm going to do it in food. And that has been really successful for me. And I thought because there were so many women in it at the top magazines at the time, because I'm a magazine person, that this would be kind of like the soft territory for me. And I really cannot emphasize enough how much, like as soon as there looked to be money and prestige in food, all the women were driven out and men came in. So I started, it was Ruth Reichel at Gourmet, Dorothy Kalins at Savour, Barbara Fairchild at Bon Appetit, and Dana Cowan at Food and Wine. So it was across the board women at the top of the editorial, pyramid. Every single one of those magazines had the women have been replaced by men, or in just the case of Gourmet, just the whole thing shuttered.
It's something you see throughout the economy in general, is as soon as something becomes a prestige employment, men file in. And then as soon as something becomes less prestigious, like you see men leave. So that's why we have underpaid teachers and nurses and home care workers, like anything that's categorized as feminine. And I think you're right. Like kind of what has happened with the growth of the quote unquote like foodie identity is that's like something that men feel comfortable participating in, right? Like claiming expertise. Since it's gotten away from like, how do you stretch your budget? Like, what do you do with all the zucchini, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, domestic. When it went out of the...
Right. It's gotten out of the domestic sphere and just been like, I'm developing my expertise. Not just, I shouldn't say just, but like, I'm developing my expertise around this.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
I think
Professional
it's much more easy to
restaurants, the Bear, there 50% of American restaurants are owned by women. But if you look at, what are kind of pop culture perceptions of a restaurant, it's the dude with tweezers. So.
that expertise presentation, I had never really thought about that before, but now that you say that, I'm like, oh, every show on the Food Network, it's like hosted by a guy with glasses who gets paid to say his opinion about food. I hadn't realized up until now how male dominated that particular type of presentation is, pop culture.
Yeah, it's like that thing where, boys will read books about girls will read books about boys, and people of all genders will read books by men, but men won't read books by women, and boys won't read books with girl heroes. So that's how you end up with a J.K. Rowling writing about Harry Potter and not a, Jane Rowling writing about Harriet Potter. Mm-hmm. And it just goes across the way. Like, there's a diners, drive-ins, and dives kind of like macho, like, watch me eat 42 burgers, and, that's just has nothing to do with running a household or keeping your children fed or keeping your body fed. A lot of the struggle of my life has been to privilege the domestic. It's important. What happens in houses, that's what makes people live or die. What happens with farming and agriculture is the entire story of climate change. And yet it's always this like, oh, food. Oh, do you want to write about Thanksgiving side dishes? It's like, no, I don't want to write about Thanksgiving side dishes. I want to write about how our, choices of what kind of meat we eat is creating a universe without birds. Can we talk about that? Like can we talk about how to have a Thanksgiving table that creates a future so that our grandchildren can have birds? No, we can actually never talk about that. Never. I've been pitching that version of that story for 30 years. No one will take it.
On this week's bonus edition of Past Due, we asked Dara what happens when the thing you love most and the people you love most are both demanding everything you have.
She gets honest about the hidden costs of building a creative life while raising a family and who actually ends up paying for it.
Get access to this and every bonus episode at patreon.com/pastdue. This episode is brought to you by Factor.
Cold days, big goals, absolutely zero interest in cooking?
Factor makes healthy eating easy with fully prepared meals designed by dietitians and crafted by chefs.
No planning, no grocery math, no what did I buy this ingredient for?
I love that Factor has quality, functional ingredients, including lean proteins, colorful veggies, whole food ingredients, and healthy fats.
And there's so much variety. Over 100 rotating meals every week, including the new Muscle Pro meals, if you're doing strength stuff.
And they support your diet, whether it's high protein meals, Mediterranean, whole ingredients, healthy fats, or more. Plus, there are no refined sugars or artificial sweeteners.
I've looked for something like this for a long time, and Factor really is the best.
It's good food that tastes great and is ready in about 2 minutes, always fresh, never frozen, no prep, and no stress.
Head to factormeals.com/pastdue50off. That's 50 off.
And use code PASTDUE50OFF to get 50% off and free breakfast for a year.
Eat like a pro this month with Factor. New subscribers only, varies by plan, 1 free breakfast item per box for 1 year while subscription is active.
If you're a small business owner, you already know what it takes to keep everything moving. You're juggling customers, invoices, and about 100 decisions every day. Thankfully, taxes don't have to be one more thing on that list. With Intuit TurboTax, you can get your business taxes done for you with a full-service expert. TurboTax matches you with your dedicated tax expert who knows your industry, understands your business write-offs, and gives you the personalized advice your business deserves. Upload your documents right in the app, hand everything off, and still feel like you're in the loop the whole way through. You can even get real-time updates on your expert's progress right in the app, which makes it so much easier to stay on track. And you can get unlimited expert help at no extra cost, even on nights and weekends during tax season. Visit TurboTax.com to get matched with an expert today. Only available with TurboTax full-service experts.
It seems to me that one thing that I'm seeing in our conversation is that the expertise around food writing as a public perception and as an editorial, like what gets assigned, is around like what tastes good, which is really, really important, right? But not about like the backstory of food. Like,
well, not about the backstory about food and not about the real story of food. You know, one of the great tragedies of this minute is Maha and RFK Jr. and all this nonsense where he's just like, well, the first thing is vaccines are bad. The second thing is that we should, I don't know what, put ivermectin up our nose. And the third thing is you should eat vegetables. And so people just like throw out they're like, oh, that can't be right. That's bad. But we do need to eat vegetables. We do need to sleep. We do need, a lot of basic stuff that makes money for nobody. That's part of the problem is that the Blueberry Council has no money and Coca-Cola has all the money. Coca-Cola is a patented object. It's full of things that cost almost nothing, and it's all about marketing and branding. Blueberries are labor intensive. No one owns them. And that's the end of the story. There's not going to be any blueberry ads. And so if you eat blueberries, you're going to be healthier. Your body's going to function better. You're not going to need as much medicine. You're going to sleep better, on and on and on and on. Ain't nobody nowhere going to tell you to eat blueberries because A, it's kind of boring, and B, there's no money in it.
I mean, that it sounds so simple, but it's actually, it's pretty fascinating when you put it that way, because how I would have thought about people talking about food is literally restaurant criticism and talking about particular dishes and preparation and all that sort of thing. And I'm curious from inside of food writing, given that that's the perception that people are working in. And like you said, there's this hierarchy in a news desk where it's news, and then, sports happen every day. And then there's always stuff to talk about. So there's always stuff people are looking to hear. How are people putting together careers in food? Like, what does it look like for the people who are successful at it right now? Like, how are they putting it together? Like what, yeah, I'm just curious what it looks like.
Yeah, I'm curious what it looks like too. If you know, get back to me. The problem with food is that we all do it every day, 3 times a day, if not all day long, grazing, right? And so I have had so many conversations with people who are 21. And they're like, oh, I'm passionate about food. How can I do what you do? And it's like, I don't know, man. Being passionate about food is everybody. Like, maybe you want to start a wedding cake business. Maybe you want to be a food photographer. Maybe you want to go work at General Mills. Like, they're passionate about food. There are fewer working restaurant critics in America than there are prima ballerinas. And I mean that. Like, they're really, to go to 20 major markets and you'll find 2 or 3 in each one. And then that's the end of the story. Like, after that, it's kind of volunteer. What I have done is to focus on the writing and the storytelling and my audience and just being me. That's like, I don't know how else to do it. And when I meet with these kids, they're like, I want to have your job. It's like, well, get a knife and kill me, because that is the only, like, this position is not opening up. I have been doing this since 1997, and I'm going to keep at it, as long as I can. It's not, the reason that restaurant critics are in like Ratatouille, and Julia Roberts played a restaurant critic. And the reason is like, it's a really fun thing. You kind of think like, oh, people are going to eat a thing and then be like, it's delicious and it's going to change the world. I've been doing this since 1997. That's not how any of this works. I have written scathing reviews about how some place is terrible, and everyone goes, they're like, oh, I want to see if I get lobster shells in my ravioli. It's like, okay, I don't know. It's very titillating. And I've been completely passionate about places that have closed almost before the ink is dry on the review. So, it's like the public perception of what a restaurant critic is or does is a little off. And then how lucrative it is off. And even what I do myself, I do about half of my life is writing profiles and fine arts work, fine arts features, things like that. And no one is ever very excited to be like, oh, did you write about a profile of a visual artist? It's like, I did. That's an important part.
It's the act of writing that's fun. But
I love writing.
I wanted to ask about what you mentioned. So there's these premier food writers, and then there's independent. And I know you've had a first row seat at the ways that Yelp has and such things have destabilized this entire industry as well. Everyone thinks that they can write these things. Everyone thinks that their opinion matters. Restaurants are more likely perhaps to cater to upset Yelp customers than they are to try and sway the opinion of the food critic that just comes every once in a while.
I don't think so. I don't know. There was a time I could just talk forever about Yelp. Yelp is kind of like my Y2K. Everybody was like, this is it. This is the end of everything. Like, everything is Yelp.
Oh, and it's not.
Oh, not at all. I mean, Yelp is just its own ecosystem. And, there's a lot of restaurants. I think you could walk into at this point and be like, I'm a Yelp, whatever, platinum. And they just be like, well, here's $5. Can you go across the street? Because like, we don't want, to just be giving you freebies and having this kind of grifty thing. And I also think like it's happened to Instagram too. Instagram was going to be the next thing. And how many people now have had the experience of seeing something so beautiful on Instagram, and then you go and it's just like a pile of nothing, and you're just like, why was I a sucker? So it's a big, difficult world. Mm-hmm.
I guess what I was talking about is less than like the grift of Yelp, but more like, I mean, you see people respond quickly to negative Yelp reviews, and restaurants do seem to care about their online reviews.
Well, it's a besmirching of their honor, Right. I mean, I think it's like it would happen to anybody if somebody was like, I saw Dara kick a dog. I would be like, no, the heck you didn't. I'm gonna get out there and clear my name.
Do you think restaurants care more about individual critic reviews than they do about their star rating on some platform?
I mean, it probably depends on the critic. I think that for a lot of people in the Twin Cities, I take their work so seriously, so I go 3 times or I go 5 times and I interview them, and I ask them about this and like, what are you trying to do? For me personally, there's an arts critic named Clem Greenberg who was huge in the 50s and stuff. And I've always used his critical philosophy. It's like the point is to help the world understand what the artist is trying to do. And and that sounds a little grandiose, but I always think like you have to reach for the stars. There's, why do this if you're not going to take it seriously? So even if it's a donut, like take it seriously and take it not seriously. But, so I think that for me personally, by the time I've gone to your restaurant 3 times, interviewed you, talked to you about your inspirations and what you're trying to do, called you back, fact-checked the piece, clarified your quotes, done this, that, and the other thing, I do think they care about what I have to say more than a Yelp reviewer.
So where's the weak link in why there aren't more restaurant critics then? Because if restaurants want to get good reviews and value the criticism and value the opinion of critics, Like, where is the weak link for people not having an appetite, as it were, for restaurant criticism?
It's a journalism question. It's very expensive to do this work. So if I go to a restaurant 3 times, it might be $1,000. Think about, what a restaurant meal costs today. So, and then you need editors, you need photographers, you need copy editors, you need everything. You need graphic designers. And so the global attack on news, so I've seen numbers, something like 380,000 journalism jobs 20 years ago to 80,000 today. That, every one of those reflects a media system that no longer exists, that could have employed restaurant critics, that doesn't, so it's very expensive to do this work. You need a healthy magazine or newspaper to do it, just period.
Have you seen much crossover, and this might be a similar answer, but have you seen much crossover from old school or traditional restaurant critics into like the TikTok food influencer space?
No. Certain Ruth Reichel's probably the biggest of the big. She's got a huge media ecosystem at this point. I don't think she'd be called a TikTok influencer, but like, if you go to a restaurant 3 times, you're talking about 10 hours of being at a restaurant. And then you're talking about, you've tried this, you've tried that, you've tried, some French onion soup, maybe 3 times, because the first time it was amazing and the second time it was a mess. And then you got to go get a tiebreaker and figure out what's going on. It's just slow work. I don't think it really lends itself to being on TikTok. It's a very, being a critic is a very peculiar position, because on one hand, you have to have the authority of being like, what I have to say matters, putting all of my attention into this bakery matters, everything about this matters. And then you also have to have the, kind of hold it like a balloon in your hand and be like, well, and what Anna says matters, and what, Mike says matters. Like, if you don't, if I go and I'm like, this is the most amazing croissant I've ever had, this person did this, that, and the other thing, and then you go and you're like, meh, that's also valid. It's not like my opinion to some extent is any better than yours. It might be, a little more informed when it comes to some esoteric bit of whatever. Like, I know so much about food history at this time. I know so much about Trinidad. I know so much about Bordeaux. I know so much about so many points on the globe. But like, in the end, who cares? If you go and you're just like, I don't like Trinidad doubles, they're stupid. Like, that's your opinion. Nobody's can make you do anything. Like, that's the end of the story. I always think of it like I think of all of what I do as just like the Baskin Robbins 32 flavor case in some way. It's just like, well, I can go through and tell you the history of butter brickle and, where the chocolate comes from and, what season it's harvested in and this, that, and the other thing. But there's a decent chance that you're just going to be like, I like Superman. I like all those colors. That's my favorite one. I like the blue one, and that's fine. Like, it's your life. You get to do what you want with it.
I am just thinking about the parallels between what we do. And I think that's why I was kind of stuck on trying to figure out where the hunger, there's no way to not use the words hunger and appetite. Because that's where I was kind of talking about like, the opinion havers. I will stop saying Yelp. But the opinion havers online, right? Who think that they can do this as good as anyone. And there is a kind of myopia about people's own opinions. And then also just there's so many free opinions available out there. So when I look at the political sphere, and Mike, I don't know if this applies to music, but when I look at the political sphere, everyone's out there thinking they're a pundit. Right? Like, everyone thinks they know how, not everyone, but anyone who's like active online thinks that they know how politics should be, and how, not just like who they like, but how politics should be. Right. And then on the other side too, and this is why I'm curious about if this is structural in what you do, there are major players who want to shape the field, right? And who benefit from lack of coverage, who benefit from not having experts to historicize and contextualize what's going on. And I wonder if that's anything, if there's anything there, because also what happens for news organizations with everyone having opinions, like the Times got rid of its ombudsman. Do you remember this? Times got rid of its ombudsman and was like, Twitter is our ombudsman, right?
Whoa.
And I guess what I was kind of getting at when I was talking to you about this before, how people are out there like thinking that they're the experts, right?
Well, it's different because for me in food, people are the experts. You know, like if you like, if I tell you I found the most amazing pumpkin pie ever, and you're like, I hate pumpkin pie. You know, that's the end of the story. Like, you do hate pumpkin pie. Like, that's all. Like, you know, now you go on your merry way and I go on my merry way. You know, and by the time anyone has been to a restaurant, I'm just going to put a number out here, 10 times, you know more about it than any critic. You know, so it's like if you have a place that you go and you've been there 10 times, you know more than I do. You know, you have more of an experience in your body. You've seen more interactions with the staff and the people. So it's like, you know, I'm doing the thing that is at the end of my critical process is a piece of writing. Like, somehow a lot of people seem to have missed that. Like, I am generating a piece of writing which will be read by an audience. Like, that is what I am creating. I am not creating an opinion about, you know, donuts. I am not creating an argument for you about donuts, though I am, but I'm really not. I'm creating an entertaining piece of nonfiction for you to ingest, as it were, and, you know, take with your life. And so one of the things that I bring as someone who has been doing this for so long is that I have a national following, you know, so it's like people read my work, whether they are in San Francisco or Washington, D.C., and they're not going to go to these restaurants. Like, the point is not the restaurant. The point is they are, you know, enjoying the nonfiction of it all. Like, you know, for a while, it seemed like food was kind of the number 2 after sports. It was like, well, you know, you check the front page and then you check your sports page and then you check the food thing, you know, you want to see what that's about. And I think that's still kind of true. But it's not, it is analogous to the everyone's a pundit, because everyone is a critic. You know, you can weigh in on any of this. You could be like, oh, I like Madagascar vanilla, or like, oh, no, I like Tahitian vanilla. Like, these are, you know, you get to have these choices, and that's kind of fun. But they're not, first of all, what you probably find most in punditry is that people don't want to do it for very long. You know, they don't want to do it for 30 years. They want to like dip in and dip out. They want to lead their lives. They're suddenly passionate about this. And then they want to make money selling commercial real estate. You know, and then they want to go on vacation. Like, you know, one of the things I bring to it is having done it for 30 years, you know, and being able to talk to people in all kinds of walks of life. Like, why did you want to start a hot sauce company? What do you mean that you have a different way of doing chicken wings than anyone else? You know, because people are very passionate about this. And this is, you know, very, very local journalism. I tell the stories of the 16th biggest metropolitan area in the United States, Minneapolis, St. Paul. And then when I used to do travel journalism, I would tell the story of some other place that I went to. But, you know, to the people that live here in the Twin Cities, we matter a lot. You know, we need someone to go to the corner of 26th and Lyndale and go up to Camden Town and then hit the North Shore and tell us what is going on exactly right here. And no one has the time to do that. No one has the money to do that. But I have the time and money to do that because I've got a job doing it.
So I want to sort of pull out a couple of different things that I heard. One is that I've been thinking a lot about restaurant criticism and wanting to drill down on like the importance or lack of importance for an individual restaurant review. But what I hear you talking about and what you've mentioned before is how much bigger your beat is, right? Mm-hmm. and how in some ways I won't say that individual restaurant reviews are the least important part of what you do, but it is not the value necessarily that you bring to readers. I mean, you give them a piece of writing, and that's what's important. And then as far as like the information you convey, what you can share that isn't this is good or bad, which I realize like you're really pointing out, like everyone has their own opinion. This is where it's different perhaps than punditry. Like, I think some people are just wrong. I won't say their opinion.
Well, I in my heart think some people are just wrong, but you know,
right.
You have to give them the space
but the experience of their, you know, and I guess I can also some people just like people, and I can't say like, if you like a candidate, I can tell you that you're supporting someone who's like immoral or whatever, but I can't tell you you're not supporting them. Anyway, it's sort of the bigger stories, the very local stories, and it's local news in general is dying. I think food criticism might be actually one place where that is less dying.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing AI can't do, is that it cannot go to the ice cream parlor and put, you know, the mango sorbet in its mouth and go like, oh God, it tastes like dish detergent, you know? So it's like, I'm a little bit safe from that for, I don't know, the next 15 minutes.
I mean, you've mentioned it and we've mentioned it, and I think we should draw it out some more, which is that you're in Minneapolis, you're in the Twin Cities, and there has been some activity there recently that people may not realize has a huge impact on the work that you specifically do. You know, that the ICE occupation of the Twin Cities had an enormous impact on the food and restaurant industry there, and agricultural industry in Minnesota.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Ongoing. I mean, this is going to be, I don't know what to say. Like, it's a death level event for a lot of businesses, a lot of small businesses, and people kind of want to say that, oh, it's not, this immigrant business or, it's only immigrant businesses. No, you go behind the scenes at any restaurant, it is largely, Latino folk, Asian folk, Black folk. You are not going to find a restaurant without immigrant workers, like across the board. I just got an email from a, very well-regarded Italian restaurant with a, cis-het white chef, and he is in brutal, difficulties because people don't want to go where they might see soldiers, pulling people out of cars. I mean, even just the customer base does not want to go to the places where there's going to be ICE. I mean, just, it's like, I've been saying it's like living in occupied Belfast. It's easing now, but it's been impossible. And honestly, the disinformation from the administration it kind of sounds really trite to say that, like the disinformation has made it worse. The disinformation has made it a lot worse because we never knew how many people were actually here. And then when they tell you that people have left, a lot of people will say, no, they haven't. And without any kind of numbers to or faith or trust to base it on, everyone is just kind of like, doesn't feel like it's over. And then you just get into people's individual mental health states, like some people are very anxious and very risk averse, and they are, when do they come out? I don't know.
And you said this is a death level event for the Minnesota restaurant industry.
For many. I mean, everybody, no, not for the industry as a whole. You can never... that's the thing about food, is that you have to eat 3 times a day. I feel like we don't talk about that enough. It's like you miss 9 meals, there is a revolution. Like, that's the rule of food. And we never talk about it. Everyone just wants to be like, oh, was the cacio e pepe good? It's like, well, the cacio e pepe may or may not have been good. But the minute there's no cacio e pepe, like, you got problems. You've got revolution. That's the next thing that happens. So that's my thought. Everything is food. Raising children is basically mostly food. Whether the economy continues is mostly food. climate change is all food. Everything is food, and yet somehow it just gets into this feminized space of not mattering. So here I am.
Finding a hoodie that lasts through the season can be tough. The American Giant Classic Full Zip Hoodie is made to last year after year. Snag the hoodie that brings comfort for life. Save 20% off your first order at american-giant.com with code STAPLE20 at checkout.
Craving the coffee flavor you love, but without the caffeine? Kachava's got you covered with their newest coffee flavor. This all-in-one nutrition shake delivers bold, authentic flavor, crafted from premium decaffeinated Brazilian beans. With 25 grams of protein, 6 grams of fiber, greens, and so much more. Treat yourself to the flavor and nutrition your body craves. Go to kachava.com and use code FITNESS. New customers get 15% off their first order. That's KACHAVA.com, code FITNESS.
One of the interesting things that have sort of come out of this conversation for me, I mean, is this question of value, right? Like, you have this expertise in understanding the systems that come together to create a restaurant or create a dish, expertise in writing about the experience of going there and having it. Yet there seems to be a discrepancy between how it's valued, right? Like how that expertise is valued. And it's got me thinking about music criticism. And I'm like, okay, why is music criticism more valued? It's like, oh, because the consumption of musical products is not local at all. Like, corporations get into alignment to say, okay, this big release happens this day. Everybody around the world hears it, and everybody wants to know if, you know, Pitchfork is going to validate their opinion on it or not. You know, so like there's a different sort of churn.
And a size of audience. And so then you get the, you know, bazillions of people.
And I'm curious, in this particular time and space, like we say, like there's so much focus globally on Minneapolis right now. Does it feel like the value of talking about the food experience, especially systematically, is higher now than it would have been?
No, not at all. I would say, like, the thing that has happened in Minneapolis is that it has strengthened the ties of the people in Minneapolis. You know, it's like we've all been in a bunker together. So I think that the people that live here, and St. Paul, of course, like we say Minneapolis is shorthand, but it's the Twin Cities Metro. And so, you know, the people in St. Paul, the people in Bloomington, the people in Hopkins, you know, we are trauma bonded. Like we already were because of George Floyd uprising. And I live 3 blocks off Lake Street that basically burned. And we're still deep in recovery. There are giant swaths of everything that burned during George Floyd that is still farm fields, just razed to the ground. So we were trauma bonded because of that already. And now we are like blood brothers. Like everyone here has, you know, put a little notch in their wrist and rubbed it together with everyone else here. Like we are one. We are together. And so what does that mean going forward? I don't know. We'll find out. You know, we've been through tough times and then come out the other side and squabbled. So will we do it again? I don't know. I mean, I think that the problem is one of a kind of this hierarchy of importance. Like, how do we get food and the domestic to matter on this hierarchy of importance that we have as Americans? I've done everything I can in my life to try to shift that. I mean, I think it's just pure consciousness raising. Like, I will tell you that, you know, trad wife is not the answer. I will tell you that I raised 2 beautiful children and they needed to eat all the live long day. Like, have it, get it again. Like, I had to go to the store to get apples and berries 100,000 times, you know, and so it was true of your mom, and so it is true of many, maybe not Anna's mom, but many moms over the years.
Darren knows my mom. Darren has had this story, my story with my mom.
But hopefully, Mike, your mom went to the store and got you some
not so many berries, but you know, she went.
Yeah, and so you know, it's a very like, how do we? You know, I cannot get over that Michelle Obama had this vegetable garden and everyone was like, this is a desecration. And then Trump comes in. He's like, I'm going to knock down the Rose Garden and the East Wing. I'm going to put in this guy that just eats bear heads and swims in sewage. And everyone's like, oh, these are good ideas. These are not desecrations. Everything's fine. So it's like, I don't know. I have to have a little bit of a hippie in my heart who's just like, somehow we have got to get smart and raise some of our, consciousness about this.
Yeah, you and I have talked a little bit about how as much as RFK is an evil presence in our health for a lot of reasons, that there is that grain of truth that the Maha movement builds itself around, right? Like that instinctive feeling that people have that something is wrong with our food system, right? Like they're really capitalizing on that. And of course, like they're turning it into like a lifestyle thing that is more and more inaccessible financially, which is not great, but there is something wrong. And the reason
very
why that
much
might resonate is that everyone is sensing it. It's sort of like the way that conspiracy theories and quack medicine capitalize on people's true sense that there is something that is being done that they don't have control over.
Yeah, and don't ask me why the Democratic Party has just lost all of the kind of stuff that matters to people about child raising. Putting French toast on the table is not a conservative project, but somehow it's gotten in that way. Like we should be able to, sow and grow vegetables and do all the stuff that like, I don't know, Woody Guthrie did without it somehow being a Republican project. Like what, caring about children. Like I have I'm going to be the only person that will ever say I have a little sympathy for the crazy anti-abortion folks. It's like, I care about babies too. Like caring about babies, I would like the Democratic Party to be like, let's care for the living babies that are everywhere. They're starving. They don't have places to sleep. My kids in the Minneapolis public schools, 10% of their classmates are homeless or highly mobile. Like, how can we get beds and food for children? Like, that shouldn't be a Republican thing. That should be a core Democratic thing.
Do you think that you are more well-informed about this because of what you write about? I mean, like,
oh yeah,
I think sometimes politically, I keep on having to bring this back because you and I talk so much, but I'm not sure this is a place that we've trod. One problem in politics and political writing is that I think pundits get distance from the actual lives of people, right? Like we write about political races and not necessarily, not everyone. It's a different, well, let me put it this way. Writing about poverty is considered a different beat than writing about politics.
Oh, yeah. And writing about climate is different. And writing about sleep somehow is totally different.
In the food kind of slice of things, like that is all there. Like when you're writing about food, you are very consciously writing about poverty and environment and whatnot. So I guess
immigration
that's my
and,
to you.
Pollinators, somehow, we have so much disconnect. Like one of the things that drives me crazy about vegans in and of themselves is that they wash their hands of the labor of pollinators. It's like, you don't have bees pollinating oranges. You don't have oranges. You don't have bees pollinating almonds. You don't have almonds. So like, how can you, just kind of say that honeybees are bad and they're oppressed and you don't want their honey? Well, it's like then you are washing your hands and someone is going to now treat these bees badly because you don't want to treat them well because you neglect their labor. And so it's like, I feel the same way about neglecting the labor of honeybees the way I do about neglecting the labor of moms. Like it all comes down to one thing and it all goes to food.
I had no idea that some vegans refuse to eat honey.
Oh no, it's straight. It's considered an animal product. No, if you're watching this and you're a vegan, I think that you should seriously take into account the welfare of the bees who feed you and wasps.
Wow, I don't know why I didn't know that, but I'm just taking it in because I mean.
No, I'll go farther with this. There are a lot of prairie plants that are only propagated by going through the gut of a ruminant. And there's a lot of prairie plants that are only propagated through getting like smooshed into the prairie by the hooves of bison or cattle. And so if you want a really sustainable food system that has birds and has prairie plants and this, that, and the other thing, you're probably going to have to eat meat. The Dakota were way more advanced about understanding how to keep the world going for 1,000 generations than we are. And we're going to have to grapple with all of this, and it's all food.
Well, I feel like we should go ahead and land the plane here. And one thing that's very important for us as a podcast is about how creatives navigate this economy is to turn the spotlight over to our guests to let people know how they can best support you. So if there's anything you want to plug, this would be a great time to do so.
All right. Well, I started a newsletter about 1.5 years ago, and it's you just sign up at deardara.com. And I only have like 1,000 subscribers right now, and so it's just kind of a letter that I send out on Sunday nights. It has been so heart-filling. Like I feel so much less alone than I did, and that's a big part of you're just working, getting rejections in your house. And I feel so much less alone. I have hear back from my readers. And it's not about food. I know this whole conversation has been about food, but this letter is zero about food. If you want to find my food journalism, mspmag.com, Minneapolis St. Paul magazine.com, and please subscribe. But if you want a free letter from me on Sundays, deardara.com.
I mean, this whole conversation has been about food, but also not about food.
Exactly. The cost of food, the value of food. And I don't know, it's been very enlightening. I didn't think that this conversation was going to make me think about the thing I do 3 times a day very differently, but it has. So I thank you for your insights on all of that.
And thank you, Dara. It's always good to talk to you.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me on. I'm a big fan.
Who's that barking in the back?
That's Cleo. I put her outside, or I put the door in such a way that she could.
Yeah.
No,
she hates it.
Hey, Mike.
Hey.
What do you got to plug?
I got to plug my rap show dates in May, where I'm going to be in the Northeast in Brooklyn, Montreal, Toronto, Cleveland, and Lansing. And then I'm going to be in the EU and UK, in Amsterdam, Springs, Germany, Nottingham, Leeds, Bristol, London, a bunch of places in the EU and the UK in May. Tickets available for all of those. And while I'm at home, I'm streaming 3 times a week on twitch.com and putting videos up over on YouTube. So that's what I'm up to. Anna, what are you up to?
Well, I'm doing my ongoing experiment in a take a day, I've been calling it, which is I'm posting a reel / YouTube short every day for the month of March. It's just, I want to report back on it at some point for the show, because it's just an experiment, less about like algorithm or how my channel grows and more about what does it do for my creative process to have to produce a 3-minute or less video every morning. And it's been interesting and not easy, but so far I kind of think where it's going is good. So people can look at my YouTube channel, Anna Marie Cox, or they can follow me on Instagram, Anna Marie Cox. And then I also want to plug a little side project of mine, Mike. No offense, first of all. It is shootmenintospace.com. It's just a proposal. It's not intended.
A modest proposal.
It's a serious. It's not modest because
not
considering modest. It's well. The only reason I call it modest is because it's super expensive and time consuming and like it's not
an expensive proposal.
It's an expensive proposal, and I think we have to take it very seriously. And I've thought it through So the website just gets into some of the details, and I want to emphasize it's not intended to be punitive. I just think we need to establish a baseline of what the earth might be like without men on it. And then it's like an elimination diet. You just slowly reintroduce, we're reducing a variable, basically. I've also bought the domain shootmenintothesun.com, but that's a
that one seems a little punitive. Yeah. That one.
We're not there yet. We're not there
okay.
yet, Mike.
All right.
We're not there yet.
Stages, maybe. Yeah, I get it.
I also have some documentation for this project, and it's my archive of writing at New Republic, so people can find some research I've done on why men are so terrible by covering politics. Yeah, all I do is cover politics, so that's
not the hardest data to find. One might imagine.
All right. Good talking to you, Mike.
Good talking to you every time.
Past Due is hosted by Anna Marie Cox and Open Mike Eagle. It's produced by Andrew Steven. You can find more at pastduepodcast.com. Help support the show by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/pastdue. You'll get bonus content, extended interviews, and more. As always, if you like what we're doing, another way to help is by subscribing, sharing the show, and leaving us a review. Thanks for listening.
Stop doom scrolling. Start decoding the tech, rewiring your week and your world. The Interface is the BBC's fiercely informed, fast, and funny take on how technology is changing everything.
Hosted by journalists Tom Tremaine, Karen Howe, and Nikki Wolf, each episode unpacks week by week the unfolding story of how technology is shaping all our futures. No guests, no jargon, just three sharp voices debating the tech news stories that matter, whether they shook a government, broke the internet, or quietly tipped the balance of power.
As TikTok shifts geopolitics, Trump drives digital shockwaves, Elon Musk expands his space internet empire, and AI reroutes the routines of everyday life, the trio asks, what world are the tech titans building for us? And do we want to live in it?
Find The Interface from the BBC wherever you get your podcasts.
Sometimes it feels like red and blue states are just as divergent as post-World War II East and West Germany. So what can the US learn from German political history in order to create a more perfect union? Find out on the new season of The Future of Our Former Democracy, the Signal Award-winning podcast for more equitable democracy and large media. Hosted by me, Colin Cole, and Heather Villanueva. It's time to rethink democracy. So follow The Future of Our Former Democracy wherever you get your podcasts.